Floods Watch, and later on the Marketplace, we're going to be talking about MSMEs, their growth, and the Hustler Fund. It's been a year. We have the PS MSME, Susan Mangeni, and we will be bringing you details on that.
But first to the highlights.
Tonight, after days of speculation over Azimio's move following the end of the bipartisan talks, Raila Odinga speaks on the controversial dialogue report. But his response is not as simple as it sounds.
We made it clear that we will support the document ensuing from the talks, but we will treat the hard line on the cost of living at the beginning of another phase of this struggle.
Also tonight, the High Court has declined to halt the Form 1 selection process, which kicked off on Monday, November 27th, over claims of glaring errors in the 2023 KCPE results. And as the numbers of those affected by the floods increases to 93,432, a new threat emerges from the deadly floodwaters. Disease outbreak, chief among these, the dreaded cholera.
While 94 cholera cases have been reported in Lamu County alone.
Well, good evening to you once more. I'm yours truly, Stanley Jerungeta.
And my name is Hibak Said. Our sign language interpreter for the night is Rhoda Nyamai.
Now, the number of households affected by the flood has increased to 93,432. However, good news, no casualty has been reported in the last 24 hours.
Even so, according to the government spokesman Isaac Mawura, a new threat looms, that of an outbreak of cholera, typhoid and malaria diseases.
Victims of floods in the country have been displaced. Basically, the displacement camps are appealing for more humanitarian assistance as the flooding gets worse. Sheila Chelengat begins a bulletin tonight.
The humanitarian crisis caused by the floods deepens further. This is the Kongole camp in Tana River County. 118 similar camps have been set up in the coastal belt and northeastern regions. Here at Kongole, the displaced persons dwelling in the camp are worried over the influx of other displaced people, which is now forcing them to stretch the already meager resources they have.
Ombi langu ni kwamba hao wenzangu ambao wamekosa pia nao wajumuike na kile ambacho kimekuja na wao wapate msaada angalau, lakini wiki mbili zilizopita tumepata shida. Tulipohama hapa huwezi jua upike nini, ndio dukani vyombo ni ngali.
Even as humanitarian agencies scramble to send them aid, these residents say more needs to be done as they continue to bear the brunt of the heavy rains.
Sisi wamama na watoto wetu anga mtuangalie kwa misaada, muzidi kutuangalia.
Disease outbreaks due to the floods continues to escalate in these worst hit areas.
Specifically, a total of 391 cases have been reported of diarrhea in Garissa, Kwale, Mandera, and Wajir counties, while 94 cholera cases have been reported in Lamu County alone.
As the situation continues to be monitored, several counties are still on a flood high alert status. These are Isiolo, Kwale, Homa Bay, Kisumu, Tharaka Nithi, Lamu, Meru, Samburu, Makueni and Taita Taveta. Occasional rainfall is expected to persist in the southern parts of the country, which include Mombasa, Narok, Kwale, Taita Taveta, Kericho and Bomet counties.
The figure yesterday was 89,098 households that we reported. So you can see there is a marginal increase of 3,324 since yesterday.
The government continues to give caution to Kenyans living in these flooded zones.
Disruption in flood-affected areas will likely continue for some time as response and recovery operations are ongoing.
The number of deaths resulting from the floods currently stands at 120 people. Sheila Chelanget for TV 47.
Thank you, Sheila Chilangat, for that report. Now, after the courts rendered the housing levy as unconstitutional in a crucial ruling, a section of Kenyans who have been eking out a living in the construction sector are lamenting the looming loss of employment in the housing levy. They are lamenting if the housing levy continues, their earnings will remain frozen.
Now, the levy had Kenyans contributing 1.5% of their income with an equal contribution from their employers. But thanks to the ruling, this will need to stop come January 10th, 2023.
Our reporter, Mwege William, engaged construction workers involved in the building of the affordable housing being put up in Soweto area of Kibera, Nairobi, and this is what they had to say.
At this construction site at Soweto in Kibera, the men and women at the construction site are all hands on deck to complete 4,054 units by early next year. More than 90% of workers here hail from the neighboring community and have worked since the start of the project early in the year. But their jobs and this ongoing project is at limbo after a 3-judge bench pronounced that the housing levy, which funds such construction project, is unconstitutional.
Gas pipe.
We met with 36-year-old Elias Ouma, who is a plumber. He expresses fears that the new turn of events might affect the future of his 2 daughters who recently started schooling. Ouma further adds that working at the construction site is the first stable job he has managed to secure in a lifetime.
Hapa napata ajira yangu ya kila siku. Tunaweza kushughulikia familia zetu kutoka kwa huu mradi. Kwa hiyo namaanisha ni inatupa ile mapato yetu ya kila siku.
Sospita Omolo, who is a metal fixer and Mora, who does land survey, opined that the government should relook into the percentage being imposed on salaried Kenyans in form of a housing levy, arguing that the jobs created through the housing program have presented a paradigm shift in job creation.
Sema ukweli, naweza sema imenibadilisha maisha kwa sababu nimefanya 1 2 3 kule kwa nyumba. Kwa hizo miezi nimepata kulipa school fee na upande wa chakula napata kununua.
Before I was just staying at home, sleeping the entire day, unless I get something, 1 or 2 that I can do, like even promotion.
Tuesday, a 3-judge High Court bench ruled that the housing levy is unconstitutional, but still granted stay orders restraining the quashing of the affordable housing levy until January 10, 2024. President William Ruto hailing the project for creating 120,000 jobs. The government collected from July to September 11.83 billion Kenya shillings, with an estimated target of 63.2 billion in the year 2023-2024, 70 billion in the year 2024-2025, and 78 billion in the year 2025-2026.
Saizi haionekani, lakini mbele huyu kijana akipata kazi na kiwa na kwake itatufaidi sisi wote. Huyu ni mtoto wetu, wote ni watoto wetu. So you have to see the future.
It is turning to be a chicken and egg situation. Protagonists of the housing levy led by President William Ruto insisting that the housing program is a paradigm shift not only in creating affordable houses but also employment. Mwege William, TV 47 in Kibera, Nairobi.
And from matters chicken and eggs situation, police in Isiolo are hunting down cattle rustlers who on Tuesday night raided Awacho village in Biliko location, Meriti sub-county, and shot dead 2 people before making away with 100 camels.
Meanwhile, a section of leaders from West Pokot County have condemned the killing of 4 residents by KDF soldiers. Micah Gongo tells us more.
County Police Commander Hassan Barua said criminals were cornered Monday morning within Imperial Hills, forcing them to flee and leave the stolen camels behind.
Wale majambazi walikuwa wamefuata na wakawafuata mpaka mahali kwa milima, mahali naitwa Shimpire Hills, ambapo hapo ndio walipambana na uzuri wale majambazi wameshindwa nguvu na wakaachilia hizo ngamia.
1 person was injured during the 11 p.m. incident and is nursing gunshot wounds at a local hospital. The police revealed that a manhunt for the criminals is underway.
Tumesumbua sana area ya Mlango, lakini tumeweka askari ya kutosha Mlango. Sasa wamehama pande ya Mulango na wameenda pande ya Merchi. Hatutakubali hata huko wajue ya kwamba hatutakubali wanyanyase watu kila wakati.
Meanwhile, West Pokot leaders have condemned the killings of 4 residents by KDF soldiers. They want CS Kindiki and his defense counterpart Eden Duale to set record straight on whether the machinery in the area is in cahort with Turkana bandits.
Wale ambao ni wakuu wa vitengo hivi, inabidi tuwaeleze ukweli ya kwamba wale ambao umetuma sehemu hile hawajaenda kufanya ile kazi ambao walitumwa kufanya. Na kama wameshindwa na kazi, badala ya kushika wahalifu na kuletwe kwenye sheria, hao waseme tu ya kwamba kazi imewashinda, tutafute wengine ambao wanaweza kufanya kazi na waweze kushika wale wahalifu na waletwe kwenye sheria. We are aimed at killing the Pokot people. We have raised these issues. The president took up the issue. Before us, he directed Honorable Kindiki to regularize that anomaly, to give Pokot NPR. Up to today, 3 weeks, 1 month, nothing.
Because there's nobody who listens to us. This year, 200 heads of cattle from the Pokot community were shot dead by the military using government bullets, using government guns, military persons used who are earning salaries from the coffers of this country. And we complained, instead of government coming to compensate the poor people that have the only mainstay as livestock, they arrested some of us.
The leaders further threatened to take matters into their own hands as a community should they continue being attacked. Mike Kagwango, TV 47.
Right now, heavy, relentless downpour has continued to devastate the Horn of Africa region, causing over 230 people to lose their lives and hundreds of thousands displaced, and with projections indicating these floods will continue till early 2024.
This even as the CARE organization is now seeking intervention from the international community to deal with this crisis, as Nelly Lusigi reports.
This is the picture that paints in most parts of Africa continent, with floods continuing to wreak havoc and destabilizing many families. Somalia raging waters have flooded schools, health centers, and causing an outbreak of waterborne diseases. In Kenya, the death toll stands at 90, with thousands of people displaced. In Ethiopia, the death toll stands at 43, with 760,000 people displaced. At Dadaab refugee camp, which is home to over 330,000 refugees, the situation is worsening daily, with thousands of Somali refugees having fled to Kenya due to the drought but are yet to be registered. CARE is responding to the crisis across all countries. In Kenya, the country office has prepositioned wash supplies, hygiene materials, jerrycans, soap, water treatment chemicals, disinfectant, and over 700,000 cartons of food. In Somalia, the country office has rolled out cash interventions targeting 198,000 people in North and South Central Somalia. In Ethiopia, the team has increased the number of health clinics and is also responding with water tracking and emergency shelters alongside distribution of non-food items. Nelly Lusigi, TV 47.
Now to matters politics, tonight Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga has expressed his disappointment with the bipartisan report for failing to address the cost of living, the veteran opposition leader terming it as the beginning of a struggle.
Odinga, who spoke after chairing the coalition's leadership summit and the parliamentary group meeting, discredited or said that the document is imperfect and unfinished, even as he indicated Azimio's conditional support of the controversial document. Azimio
has further reiterated that the entrenched new proposed officers, those of opposition leader and Prime Minister, as Apollo Kamau reports.
In what Azimio described as the beginning of another struggle, and after a long-day meeting of the coalition summit and the parliamentary group, Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga finally shared his much-anticipated sentiments, punching holes in the bipartisan report, expressing his disappointment in a report he called imperfect and unfinished. Odinga stating that Azimio coalition will not shy away from calling Kenyans to action to force the government to reduce the cost of living.
We made it clear that we will support the document ensuing from the talks, but we will treat the hard line on the cost of living at the beginning of another phase of this struggle. The document the team has come up with is ultimately imperfect and unfinished, but it is a good beginning. We have agreed to disagree on the most important matter to us.
On the question of his team's involvement in the so-called imperfect report, Odinga defended how the Azimio team fought to have the cost of living lowered during the talks and blamed the Kenya Kwanza side for allegedly refusing to deal with the issue. Azimio also lamented of their allegedly rejected points that involved the Finance Act 2023, which they wanted overhauled, with the housing levy scrapped and VAT on fuel products reduced from 16 to 8%.
Our team realized that the whole issue of cost of living is extremely sensitive in the Kenya Kwanza circles because it is a gravy train on which many corrupt interests have converged. Cost of living cannot come down because the key people in the government are eating from it.
Odinga's statement on the report forestalling a split in the coalition after hardline positions emerged on the report, with Azimio principals Martha Karua and Eugene Wamalwa leading the hardliners who rejected the report for apparently failing to tackle the cost of living. On key slots negotiated between the two sides, the official leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister's post, the opposition has said the country must go for a referendum, a position not supported by Kenya Kwanza.
To create the office of the leader of opposition or to formalize the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the people of Kenya have to have their say by way of a referendum.
There were, however, positive takeaways by the opposition from the report. Among them, consensus on the audit of the 2022 presidential election results, the restructuring and the reconstitution of the IEBC, the extension of Supreme Court petition hearings from 14 to 21 days, the transfer of devolved factions, and the creation of the Ward Fund. Despite adopting the report half-heartedly, Azimio still has an unfinished business with Kenya Kwanza on the issue of the cost of living, an agenda which will now be taken to the people. Apol Kamau, TV47 in Nairobi.
Thank you, Apollo Kamau. The High Court has declined to halt the Form 1 selection process, which kicked off on Monday, November 27th, over claims of glaring errors in the 2023 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examination results.
Now, in his ruling, Judge Lawrence Mugambi ordered the application together with the petition be served within 14 days, responses to the application and the petition be filed and served within 14 days thereafter, and then set the mentioned date on the 7th of February 2024 for further directions.
Now, the cases were filed by Dr. Magare Gikenyi and two parents, namely Pius Kiyo and Evelyn Kemuma Omoyo, who challenged the results on the basis of alleged errors in the grading system.
The trio argued that if the process continues, some pupils will be denied justice and may miss out on the secondary school of their choice.
Now, during the release of the KCPE results, Education CS Ezekiel Machogu announced that the selection exercise would commence on November 27th and would last for 2 weeks.
Let's stick with matters education, and it has emerged that there still exists a big gap in financing disadvantaged university students. Only 19% are able to access university education, while the rest are unable to progress to university.
This emerged as one of the challenges affecting the education sector at the inaugural stakeholders meeting on higher education scholarships and funding organized by the Mount Kenya University Foundation. Stakeholders have been challenged to ensure that disadvantaged Kenyans access education.
When Millicent Nafula was called onto stage, her smile was as radiant as her confidence. At 33 years old, Millicent is in second year now, studying her dream course, medicine and surgery, thanks to a fully paid scholarship at Mount Kenya University. Millie, as she is colloquially known, scored a mean grade of A- in her KCSE back in 2007. However, for 13 years, she thought she would not actualize her dream of becoming a medical doctor. That is all in the past now, as she is a testimony of what funding for higher education can do.
The purpose of creating campuses is to make sure that access to education is there for even the far-flung students from far-flung areas.
It is for this reason that stakeholders met in Nairobi to dissect scholarships and funding opportunities.
Currently the most affordable institution of higher learning in the country. And we have implemented at a corporate level several mechanisms that reduce our cost of operation. And these costs of operation are transferred to students in terms of lower fees. So we are going to share that model, We are going to share that model, and we'll see how our partner organizations can replicate the same in their places of work so that we can increase that scholarship pool.
The event, hosted by the MKU Foundation, sought to seek solutions to the big gaps that have existed in the inability to access higher education funding over the years.
And what of course that means is that some of those students are not able to afford education. And what the university has done is to create an internal funding mechanism where every year we have money set aside to give scholarships to students who are deserving and who are needy.
Every year, about 800,000 students write their final year secondary school examination. However, only about 20% of them proceed to university due to lack of resources. In the Full House Forum that had a host of representatives from different sectors such as government, Kenya Private Alliance, NGOs, University Fund, as well as the Mount Kenya University, one thing was clear. It was unanimously agreed that there exists a big gap in funding university education. Speaker after speaker emphasized that accessibility of university education to needy students is still a challenge. The disparity in higher education has its far-reaching effects, more so since higher education is arguably the key to development.
So we have put in place a very elaborate way of determining who is most deserving. Of course, we look at where they come from. We have metrics of measuring the people who are needy, and the ones who are needy and deserving are supported.
It is clear as day that there is need to establish a joint universities fund where needy students who are most affected by the disparity can join campus.
We also intend to trigger the participants. We can come up with one united scholarship as benefactors, and also now we put money in that pool and then we pass on that benefit again to students who are needy and deserving.
The conversation continues.
Right, Kenya Union of Clinical Officers are now demanding that the Ministry of Health expedite promotions for all qualified clinical officers and those who have been stagnated.
Led by Kuku Chairperson Peterson Wachira, the union also wants the Minister of Health and Council of Governors to resume the collective bargaining agreement negotiations within the next 21 days, failure to which they will take action.
Now, they have also demanded that the Ministry of Health recalls and revises the circular advising county governments on the primary care network committees to include the clinical officers.
We have workers who have worked for this government for over 30 years. They are at the verge of retiring from service, and that worker has only been promoted once for more than 30 years.
Promotions and redesignations, considering their years of stagnation within the next 21 days. That the Ministry of Health and the Council of Governors resume the collective bargaining agreement negotiation within the next 21 days with the intention of finalizing within the next 90 days.
All right, let's talk matters devolution, and Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza has been ranked as the top most impactful governor in terms of development.
Baraza ranked first at 70.6%, with Uasin Gishu Governor Jonathan B. and Narok Governor Patrick Ole Ntuntu being in the second place at 69.8%, on the lower side.
On the lower side, however, the survey has ranked Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga at 55.2% and Machakos Governor Wavinya Ndeti at 55.9%, bringing up the rear.
Now, the survey ranked governors according to the impactful projects and all devolved functions, including sports, agriculture, water and sanitation, education, health and infrastructure. The recent survey conducted by Polytrack Africa has put health services as the most impactful among projects done by all governors. Now, Islamic finance in Kenya has gained traction due to the growing Muslim population and their desire for financial services that align with their religious beliefs.
It will provide more options and diversity in the financial sector, attracting a wide range of investors. This increased participation and can lead to increased liquidity and stability in the markets.
And as our reporter Natasha Wairimu highlights in our weekly stocks and market summary, we see how this is impacting the Muslim community.
Globally, the Islamic financial sector is a $2 trillion industry based on Islamic principles that discourage interest and speculations. And as part of the drive to unlock the potential of Sharia-compliant investment to support infrastructure financing, the capital markets launched the Sukuk bond. So what is Islamic finance? What is Islamic investment banking? And what will be its output in the financial markets?
Islamic finance is all about managing your finances in accordance to Sharia or Islamic law. This is the prohibition of interest, which is riba, avoidance of speculation, as well as trading in haram sectors such as alcohol and gambling.
Islamic investment banking. It's just the element of making sure that the investments are Sharia compliant. So in this case, we would have a Sharia board that looks and determines all the investments. We also had a very strong head of compliance who also validates each particular investments to make sure that they're in the principles of Sharia. It's more capital into the financial markets where it hasn't had a good home, and more direction in terms of where individuals can be able to invest.
Bulls continue to drive the market on the back of positive sentiments on key blue chips, coupled with investors pricing in the third quarter of 2023 banking sector results. The Nairobi Securities Exchange All-Share Index and 10-Share Index each gained 1.9% week over week. The Nairobi Securities Exchange 20 and 25 share indices gained 2.6% and 2.1% week over week, respectively. Bamburi was the week's best performing top mover, rallying 21.1% week over week to 35 Kenya shillings. Standard Group was the leading gainer of the week, rallying 25.8% to close at 7.50 Kenya shillings, while Olympia Capital Holdings shed 13.1% to 2.65 Kenya shillings, closing as the week's top loser. Natasha Wairimu, TV47, Nairobi.
And into the wonderful world of sports, Kenya athletes have extended their dominance in as Africa Deaf Athletes Championship enters day 3.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni. hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Toka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turukana. Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka Kisii County.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Jiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai. John Javakiania. Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanji Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao.
Every Thursday 7:30 p.m. unapata nafasi kufahamu viongozi mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini, kuanzia wabunge.
Through Changa, we could get money to pay our rent.
pay our bills.
When I was growing up, water was a problem where I was born and bred. We wake up at 3 to go and look for water.
Magavana
must be ready to be a tough woman and not a woman to be walked over. But you respect people.
Dari ya mfahamu kiongozi story na historia na mi Elizabeth Muchuku.
Well, if it is happening, then we are definitely talking about it on TV47's Disruptive Friday. Don't miss a moment on the most technological and disruptive moment on TV.
From groundbreaking AI breakthroughs to the latest ingenious innovations, we have it all covered for you. Get ready to see the future unfold right in front of your eyes. My name is Eric Munene.
And my name is Linda Alala, and we not promise nothing short of great news experience.
The thing about coffee is it means different things to different people.
To some, it is what gets them going every day. The ability to transform groggy mornings into vibrant beginnings.
To others, it is a fuel that drives them through the day. The thing about coffee is that we like it differently. I love mine with a little bit of a sweetener.
And I love mine strong.
For me, the darker, the better.
The thing about coffee is it gives a platform for sharing news and reviews.
The best opportunity for a great conversation.
It is the perfect way to kickstart your day. And here, we serve it hot.
Welcome back to the Daily Report and welcome to the Marketplace. Tonight we're delving into micro, small and medium enterprises like never before. Tomorrow we're going to be having the 1-year anniversary of the Hustler Fund. We're going to be breaking down the numbers. We're going to be telling you how exactly this has impacted Kenyans and where exactly it's going to be in the future. Already we have the Principal Secretary for the State Department for MSMEs who's going to be helping us a little bit to understand what exactly is happening there. Susan Mangeni, welcome to TV47.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate this opportunity to be here and to share with the rest of the hustlers, the rest of the country, on the opportunity that we have in the Hustler Fund.
So a year ago when the Hustler Fund was launched, of course this was one of the manifestos that the Kenya Kwanza government is pushing on, access to finance for micro and small and medium enterprises, and of course some of, the people who have been left out when it comes to formal financing. If we could just break it down a little bit, do you feel like the Hustler Fund is exactly where the government wanted it 1 year later?
Yes, it is. And I must say that it has surpassed our expectations. Because picture this, at the time when we launched the Hustler Fund, we had just come out of a hotly contested campaign, general election, and the country was divided into the middle. So, and the Hustler Fund having been one of the signature program of President Ruto, and one of the key campaign promise that he made, remember, he said that within 100 days, he was going to launch this fund. And indeed, in under 90 days after taking over the office, we launched this fund. So that one shows that he's a person wa kusema na kutenda. So yeah. And, but again, the question is, why Hustler Fund? Why did he just take it upon himself? Why did he drive it hard that we must just launch it? We must deliver this promise. It's because this was not even his thinking. The idea behind Hustler Fund was not President Ruto's idea, but it was the idea of the people of Kenya who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid. You recall that during the 2022 campaign, a larger part of that year, last year, that is, it was just last year, right?
Yes.
It sounds like it's been a long time ago. President Ruto engaged in economic forum, economic conversation at the grassroots across the country. And in each and every corner of this country, in every county, he had conversation with the people at the bottom of the economic pyramid, who majority of them were our MSMEs, the mamambogas, the boda-bodas. And one central theme that ran around was the concern that people were having when it comes to accessing credit, accessing financing. And people were really, like pleading with him that we like you, we love you, our next president, but please, when you take over, the first thing that you need to do is to help us break the barriers with regard to access to financing. And maybe just to delve there a little bit deeper, is for us to ask yourself, what is the architecture of our economy? Where are we as a country? The truth is that majority of our population are not participating effectively in the economy. And one of the greatest barriers that hinders them from participating is access to easy and affordable credit. Because then around the same time, you realize that we were just also trying to recover from the pandemic, from the shocks that were caused by Corona. And also, you remember, this country also faced, the worst drought ever in like 40 years. Yeah, so because of that, most businesses went under, and most businesses that were affected were businesses, owned by MSME. And again, our country, nearly 98% of businesses you see in this country are MSME. And unfortunately, most of those businesses are micro, are those in informal sector. So then what picture does that paint? It paints that we have majority of our population are hardworking people. They try to do something. They have good ideas. They always try to do something to survive. But the environment, it has not been conducive, including the environment of credit markets. I mean, and you see also most of these people who are there, the young people, the women, the persons with disability, the vulnerable population that cannot access credit. They don't have collaterals like the traditional or rather conventional collaterals of lands, title deeds, or even logbooks and all those. They also have limited social capital in the sense that, in some financial institution, you can be asked if you have a guarantor. If you don't have, let's say, collateral and you have a guarantor, who can give you that access. But these people, they're limited in terms of the social. If you're poor, you are really limited on who can believe in you. So I think then we had predators. Lending predators who also took advantage now of the spread of mobile technology and especially mobile money innovation across this country, because we may not be doing well in certain aspects, but when it comes to mobile technology, the acceptability, I think each and every homestead is enjoying those services. So they took advantage of that. They came up with digital money, lending, and they used to hawk it around. And because our population are desperate, they're in need of cash, they need something to do, they will fall for that. And so they were exposed to high and exploitative interest rates. Some of them were even paying 10% in terms of interest rates per day. So then we cannot have a population, and you can never grow the country, and especially put it back to the pathway of recovery when you have majority of your population being exploited, unable to run businesses that can grow and register certain key milestone. And you see, a business has to grow.
Right.
For you to generate income, to generate profit, a business has to grow. So we're in a situation where we have a population that is willing to do something, but at the same time that, you know, that are disengaged economically, and therefore what is the impact of that? The impact of that to the economy and to these other population who are at the top of the economic pyramid is that now you bear the burden. And that's why the dependence ratio is very high. And you see now this population, some of us who are working, we are feeling that pressure because we have to take care of them. And how do we take care of them? Now through the taxes. Because now, so the whole thing was for us now to relieve even the population at the top of the economic pyramid, those few who are employed formally, who are doing businesses that are there, it was to try and to reduce the pressure, is to expand economic participation by giving the people at the bottom of the economic pyramid an access to financing and means to do business in a conducive environment so that they can equally contribute to the economic growth and also promote their livelihoods, enhance their livelihood, have something to put on the table.
Right, Susan, and we just have to look at the numbers a little bit.
Good.
It's been 1 year.
Yeah.
39.6 billion shillings accessed, around 28 billion payback rate. That's around 70% when it comes to repayment rate.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the 5% saving aspect, 1.9 billion shillings. Let's talk about the saving aspect a little bit.
Yeah.
Of course, the Cabinet Secretary had spoken about how 30% of this saving could be accessed in 1 year, and the 70% would be a normal saving scheme where you get it when you retire. The 30%. Kenyans are waiting. It's been a year. Can they access those funds?
Yeah, they're going to access.
Tomorrow?
Absolutely.
30th of November?
Absolutely.
So Kenyans have something to look forward
to? Absolutely. But again also, why the saving?
Right.
That's also very, we need the people to understand why the savings. In this country, we have a workforce of 20 million Kenyans.
Right.
And every year, we have close to 1 million coming in today to the job market.
Of course.
But unlike before, when previously, you know, what used to happen is that the turnover in terms of people who are retiring from the civil service or from the public sector was almost equal to people who are coming into the workforce. But we are a young nation, at an average age of about 17 years old.
Right.
Our workforce, even in the civil service or even in the private sector, is very young. And you can tell even by looking at within this setup, in this studio, you see people here are fairly very young.
Yes.
So meaning we are not having people who are also, people who are also retiring so that they can pave space for other people to come in. So people who are formally employed in this country are only 3.5 million out of the 20 million potential workforce. What does that tell us? It tells us that the 16.5 million people have to be enabled to create jobs. And how do we enable them to create jobs? There are certain factors that we have to look at. Number one, you cannot run a business also if you are not saving. If you do not have some sort of social security where you can fall back in the event of let's say in the event of shocks. Like for example, when now Corona pandemic visited us, a lot of our business went under. That Mama Mboga, who was your favorite Mama Mboga, you stop by every evening from work, mwambie nikatie mboga kidogo kidogo hapo. Because of the social distance protocol, this Mama Mboga had to do what? Had to close up her business, and all of us started now going to supermarket, we call, you know, Uber food, Bolt food, and all those manner of things. So you see now the environment was not so conducive to small businesses, and especially worse of it if you are a micro business operator. So now what happens that if a country has 16.5 million people whom we now have to support to create jobs, to have something that they can put on the table to do, then we have also to look at what factors can make this person achieve that. But you cannot do much if you're also not saving. So we are introducing and promoting a culture of saving as a also to provide a fallback, opportunity in the event we are faced with shocks. In the event those MSMEs are faced with shocks, they don't have to close up or they don't have to sell all their wares, all their stock, and then go back deeper into poverty. So one way of preventing that is to inculcate that culture of saving. So 5%, 70% of that goes to long-term saving.
Right.
Like a pension. Remember, I've said these people, nobody has employed them. They have employed themselves. But that one does not mean that time will not come when they will have to retire.
Right.
Whether you're employed or not, whether you're doing your own business, time will come when your board will even say enough is enough.
Right.
Now you need to sit somewhere and somebody has to take care of them. Instead of our people retiring to poverty, retiring to indecency, it's good to start now providing them with an opportunity where they can save. And by the way, one of the most, the common feedback we've gotten from our beneficiary, which is running across, is that opportunity to save. Because people are telling us, oh, do you know, as a mama mboga, what time will I have or will I make to run to the mainstream back, for example, to go and save my 100 bob that I have made every day? Right. And again, because of so much fraudsters, like technology also comes with a lot of bad things. And so people wanted, where can we save? Save so easily. Which platform do you have to save that we can trust? And of course, you can always trust the government because it will always ensure that they protect you, they protect your savings and everything. So many people, especially our beneficiary, has actually applauded that saving component. Right. And we have so many other people who just who are interacting with the hustler fund, not to borrow but just to save. You recall that in March this year, we launched the voluntary saving. Right. So when we launched, and we never even made noise about it. We never even went to the media to say, hey, you can now save voluntarily. Right. When President Ruto pronounced himself about that opportunity, the Kenyans who started saving, like our top saver today, as at 1st November this year, a gentleman who lives in Korogocho. I mean, this gentleman has been able to mobilize 634,000 shillings. Right. And his limit, if went to his limit, is only 800 shillings. So you ask him, what motivated? He says saving. And I've been able to save within this 1 year because I want to start up my own business. I want to buy a truck because he's in transport industry, but he works for somebody. Right. So there are people who are feeling so much relieved that we have this option. I have been outside this country and I've interacted with the Kenyans in the diaspora, and they tell us their story, how they usually get cheated out, they usually get frauded whenever they send money back home, either through friends and to some extent even some families also. Right. Do them those games. They say, build for me a house, and by the time when you come back, you're thinking you have your house, there is no house. So we heard about this affordable housing, and we are saying, by the way, there's a way through which we can save and start paying little mortgage, for those housing, because at least they trust government. And after what has happened, I mean, the experience we've had so far in the Hustler Fund has showed us one thing. The people really wanted the government hand, the government presence, the government to go to where they are, to feel them, to work with them, to hold their hands. Right. So that's why this initiative has been embraced, because they feel secure. Their savings are going to be secure. But again also, the top borrower of the Hustler Fund, today as we speak, has been able to borrow cumulatively 4.5 million. Right. His savings, attendant to that 5%, is about 225 million, thereabout. Right. So what does this mean? If you are to save today, because you know the limits, the highest limit as a per today is 6,000 shillings, and this is big. Some people at the level of the top border, those who started off with a good limit of 3,000. Remember, we're going to grow it up to 50,000 with time. As you borrow, you grow. So when we enhance the limit around March, again, this gentleman's limit went up to 6,000. So that's the top limit that we have today. So this gentleman has borrowed transacted 814 times to the tune of 4.5 million. If you look at his saving, he's been able to mobilize 225,000.
And within, sorry to cut you off, and within those limits and confines, we must look at the numbers from every angle, Susan. We are talking about 39.6 billion that has already been disbursed. However, the repayment is 28 billion, which is 70%.
Around there.
So there is a 30% that is a debt that has not been repaid. A lot of the time, financial institutions have their own forms of security to ensure that there is a payback rate. What exactly is the government's payback plan?
First of all, the repayment is close to about 70 to 73% if you were to work out. And well, that question has been asked on numerous occasions.
Yes, and the CS
and sometimes
2 days ago was talking about how we should focus on the positives.
Absolutely.
The repayback is 70%, but that, you know, around 30%, give or take.
And let me tell you why I support the CS and why I think like the CS and why we as a government, we see it the way the CS was explaining here, is that why Hustler Fund? Hustler Fund has come to build a capacity, the lending preparedness of our population, people who do not have collaterals, so that at the end of the day now, they can start building their credit score. So their credit score now becomes that collateral. We are nurturing good behavior among our population. And most of the time, people do not repay. People who borrow for a purpose do not fail to repay because they want not to repay. Sometimes they don't repay because of the circumstances, because of the situation. Probably commercial bank may not hear them out. As we hear them out, because like I told you, 16.5 million people need to be enabled to do a job, to create their own jobs, their own self-employment opportunities. And we are saying the greatest barrier is access to credit. So if we cannot enable them to build, to come up with a new collateral system, give them an opportunity to repair their credit score. Because remember also, around the time when His Excellency the President was taking over the office, close to 8 million Kenyans were in CRB. Close to 8 million.
3 million have been pardoned?
No, and they were all, by the way, they were all pardoned. Because what the President did, he intervened. And if you can recall also, in under 1 week after being sworn in, he had an engagement with the private sector partners, especially the financial institution. They had an engagement with the telcos. And he pleaded with them that we cannot run an economy where close to 8 million Kenyans, 18 years and above, who are in the most productive, you know, age, most productive age and most productive, you know, years of their time, you know, being locked out of the economy. Are you seeing that? So we needed, it was then, what he was telling them, it's our responsibility as key players in these sectors and in the economy to pull them along, to rebuild them. So the government said, look, and the President said, for me, I'm willing to offer them a second chance. I'm willing to rehabilitate them. I'm willing to launch a fund that can rehabilitate them back, and we give them a second chance to now redeem themselves, start, you know, repairing their credit score, you know, their credit worth, and also growing their credit score. I know if you've traveled around the world, especially in those developed economy, you realize that they value the value they attach to a credit card is much higher. Is much higher than what they attach to a debit card. The value they attach to a credit card is much higher than the value they attach to cash. You may want to purchase something, you take cash, they say no, purchase with the credit, because they know when you purchase with your credit card, there's some sort of, people believe you. You have recorded some credit, you know,
Credibility.
your credibility,
Yes.
you know, you're a good person, you're a good borrower who can be trusted. So that is the culture that we want to harness here in our country, to inculcate among our population. And again also, for example, also borrowing the practice of the Muslim community.
Right.
And you know that if today you wanted to borrow money, I mean, they don't need to know you.
Right.
They don't even to know where you are from. They just trust you. I mean, it's a trust system that can make us unlock access to credit to the majority of Kenyans who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid. Because if we keep on saying we need collateral, and if we keep on saying we are going to punish you, we are going to throw you to CRB, we are going to arrest you, we are going to do, we are not helping this person, because we want this person to be actively engaged so that he or she can put something on the table, if not even for anybody else, but at least for himself.
Right.
So what you're doing, we will continue nurturing good behaviors by demonstrating those who, those with good, who have borrowed, those successful borrowers who are good borrowers, letting the rest of Kenyans who are still lagging behind know that you are not punishing the government of Kenya.
Right.
You're not punishing anybody. You're just locking out yourself from the economy, because we've given you a chance, a very, a very smooth chance to redeem yourself.
Right, and Susan, hopefully the end justifies the means, because now that's 30% that is hanging in the balance. We're going to go for a very short break, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at these numbers, and we're going to be looking at the rates, 8%. There has been a little bit of an economic turmoil. Are they going to be revised either upwards or downwards? Find out when we return for the marketplace.
Get ready to witness a groundbreaking expose in Kenya's economic landscape. The Kenya Film Commission, in collaboration with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and the GIZ Kenya, is set
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
Welcome back to The Marketplace. Tonight we're talking all matters the Hustler Fund. It will be 1 year old tomorrow. We're looking at its future, we're looking at the past, we're comparing numbers, we're comparing notes, and we're even looking at some of the aspects. It's 8% per annum when it comes to the interest rate, and also 5% in saving. However, there has been in the last year a lot of economic turmoil. There have been financial revisions. The Cabinet Secretary, Susan, was talking about a possible rate revision tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 30th of November. We're talking about changing not only loan limits, but even the rates that they're going to be paid for. Could you just give us an insight on that?
Well, whatever we will want to announce tomorrow, I really don't wish to preempt. However,
just a hint.
However,
yes.
One thing I know is that Kenyans have been asking us, and we have received a lot of feedback in terms of number one, when can I access my my savings, when can I access, when will my limit grow?
Right.
Like today, there was so many, when we say talking about, the Hustler Fund, since last week actually, our inbox are full of, I've been borrowing every day and I pay daily, or I pay within time, but my limit is still stuck there, and
yes.
all those questions. I mean, remember, this is an intervention. This fund is an intervention. It's not like any other financial product that we even have in the market. Not even like most of those catalytic funds that
right.
the government operates. The likes of the Women Enterprise Fund and all those funds. This is just an intervention that is out also to help us correct the market failures.
Right.
The first market failure, which I've already alluded to it, was the fact that majority of Kenyans could not be served, were not banked.
Right.
And even if they were banked, they were being underserved because they couldn't afford, or rather they didn't have access to collaterals, conventional collaterals that every mainstream financial institution will be looking for. The other market failure was the fact that after the corona pandemic, it sank many MSMEs, and many Kenyans went into CRB.
Right.
And the interesting thing in this country, in our economy, is that CRB became like policemen. You hear about CRB, you are like, we'll send your name to CRB. It's like the way
it's a
the people always have been looking at policemen before the reforms came into being.
Right.
You couldn't trust a policeman, even if that policeman was your spouse. Because the moment he or she walks out of your house, of
right.
your doorstep, you're like, it's a policeman. So this is how now even CRB was. It was so much negative about it. Yet, there was also other positive elements of CRB if we focus on positive credit, sharing, credit information sharing, which we are now trying also to propel up. So correcting the so much negativity in the market about CRB, that only people could share negative credit info about their customer, wasn't a good thing in our society. Then there was the element of, now how do we bring back these 8 million Kenyans
right.
who are in CRB listed negatively? We needed to correct that.
Right.
But who are we going to correct this one with? Again, we look into the market and see who are the players, who are the key players in the market. And this is how now His Excellency the President reached out to the private sector players, those in the telecoms and those in the financial institution, and say, look, it's not only the government and the people of Kenya who are feeling this,
right.
but even you people who are in business,
right.
you're also feeling the pain because your customer base is also hurting, is shrinking. If each and every year we encourage this trend to go on, where a number of Kenyans will sink into CRB, will be listed negatively, then one day you wake up, you'll end up having no customer. So because it's the business of government to facilitate the private sector to grow, we say, come on, let's sit together and intervene in the market, intervene for Kenyans, see how we can be able to rebuild their credit score. So that was there. And then because of lack of these people being served by mainstream financial institution, the predators were all over us. The Shylocks were all over with the exorbitant interest rates. For example, if you're being charged 10% per day, per year is 360, 60%. I mean, which kind of business can you grow with such exorbitant interest rates?
Right,
so
but
then
Susan, sorry to cut you off. One would argue that the private sector does not have the luxury of the government. You know, they're not very people-centric. Most of the time, they are more profit-centric. And this, of course, throws us into wondering what exactly, once again, is the payback plan for the Hustler Fund? How, say, for example, the 30% of these Kenyans, knowing that the credit scores might be, damaged, still decide not to pay. What are the consequences?
I don't think they're going to decide. And I refuse to agree that we have a Kenyan who has means and just refuses to pay.
Right.
And to demonstrate that, in a couple of months ago, when we introduced the second product, which is the group loan, and one of the eligibility criteria was that you should not have an outstanding loan in your the personal loan, that is the first product. We saw so many Kenyans coming on board to pay. As it is today, that product, we have lent out 168 million. But the money that has been repaid as of today morning is 428 million, which makes us now start wondering, is it really that Kenyans don't have money? Or is it a question that we don't give them, we don't understand them, we don't give them more opportunities? And that's why even with the Hustler Fund, we are trying to address that and to incentivize and to motivate them by introducing other, diversifying our products to give them enhanced limits, enhanced opportunity to access more. And as it is, having reached out to about 22 million Kenyans, because we are close to 21.7 million there, almost 22 million Kenyans of adult age, 18 years and above. What does that tell you? That you have nearly reached out to almost entire adult population in this country, because we are a population of 50 million Kenyans. So if we are serving close to 22 million Kenyans, and majority of our population are young people under 18 years of age, it means you are serving the whole universe. In other words, Hustler Fund has tremendously reached out to almost everybody. So what is going to happen is that if you can prove through Hustler Fund that you're a good borrower, you're a good borrower in terms of borrowing and repaying, and you are only for you to borrow and repay within the time frame that you commit to serve, you must be borrowing for a purpose. So we're also trying to promote opportunity-driven entrepreneurship, opportunity-driven borrowing. And if you're going to borrow for a purpose, you're going and you become a good borrower, you're going to expose yourself to higher opportunities, to even much better opportunities. It's not just about financing that can help someone do business. You also require market linkage support. You also require training. There's so much that you require in this ecosystem. So if you decide to be bad and to say, I'm not interested, and this is the only opportunity that you have to build yourself, your capacity to build, to create your own job and to put food on the table, you're going to lock yourself from there. So what you're doing, we are still committed to nurturing good borrowing behavior. We are still committed to ensuring that even if you fall back, we'll still come back and give you an opportunity to do what repay. And that's why we're encouraging them also to save. Because like now, this gentleman who has saved 225,000, he has something. He's not the same like when he started. Today he can even walk to a mainstream bank and ask for a loan, because at least he has something. He believes, I have something. Now we have catalytic fund within also our MSME ecosystem. If you're a good borrower and you're a young person, and we, we build your capacity, we support you to access even an agpo tender, for example, where you need, you need more money, you need probably like 1 million or so, and you don't have a collateral. Why would you not take up that opportunity? We will see you through to that opportunity by just looking at how you've been interacting with the Hustler Fund.
And speaking of interacting,
yeah,
Susan, so essentially the spectrum is really broad, right? So we're looking at a situation where we are focusing as a country, because the Hustler Fund does belong to all of us.
Yes.
We're looking at a reward system in contrast to having potential consequences for funds that are not returned.
But who says that the funds will not be returned?
Right.
As we keep on looking at the opportunity, remember the other day, His Excellency the President said that Kenyans, I think during the State of Nation address, he said, we're at a level where we should never define Kenyans by their challenges, but rather by the opportunity. It is our business to make sure, as a government, to make sure that every citizen is economically engaged.
Right.
So, and if you look at even the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the principle about not leaving anyone behind, we as a government, we want to bring people on board and make sure we enterprise your space. And the first thing to do to enable you enterprise your space is to give you universal access, like almost 100% access to credit as and when you need it, so that you can be able to do your hustle. What you're saying, I still do not want to believe that there are Kenyans who have decided, who have means, they're doing something, and they have decided, I'm borrowing and I'm not going to repay. We want to go down there and ask yourself, now that we have had this experience of 1 year, we want to ask those Kenyans. We will follow up with them because we know them. We know where they are.
Yes.
We know, So we want to follow and have a conversation with them. Try to understand what could be the challenges. Probably some of those people could be saying you have failed to repay. You never know. Maybe hata hawako duniani anymore. And statistics are still telling us they borrowed once, they refuse to pay.
Right.
But we need to understand this. We want to meet these people, and we'll be reaching out to them. What is the problem? Which capacities do they have? What are the challenges?
Right.
Where do they reside? What are those specific contexts that could make them not want to repay? Of course, there could be those ones who are not repaying because maybe they have politicized the whole thing.
Right.
But I can tell you, looking also at the returns and the figures we are having across the country, even in those areas you would have said were the opposition stronghold, people are borrowing and people are repaying, showing that it can't be that someone else has influenced you not to repay. It could be your own personal challenges, and if it's a behavior, we have an opportunity to help you, to transform you into a good borrower, because that is your key, that you have to access other opportunities that can help you unlock your potential, which I believe every Kenyan, every human being has got unlimited potential.
Right.
So we are still going to nurture, introducing new products, also scaling them up and trying to understand why they're in that situation, why they have not repaid. And by the way, you will also give us thumbs up that when you launch this fund, people are like, this is not going to, it's not sustainable, Kenyans will not repay, they're in hardships, all those things were said. Oh, we cannot borrow this thing because it was political, we can't borrow, we will borrow, it's our money, and it. But this 428 million that has been now repaid back, it just shows that Kenyans are not what people think they are. Kenyans are hardworking, as we have always known. You give them an opportunity, you give them time, you work with them, you follow them up,
Right.
And you know, and you know, Kenyans, they don't like being harassed as such. You know,
Yes,
you
yes.
just understand them and work with them. And I think that's the approach that we are going to use. To use to try and bring them back to reality and try just to enable them to repay and also have an opportunity to participate in our economy, to do something that is meaningful to their life.
Right, Susan. And speaking of the economy, I had asked for a hint of what could be spoken about tomorrow. TV47 just wanted, you know, to get a little bit of an insight in front of, before all else.
Oh, no.
However, the Cabinet Secretary had spoken about how the loan limits must now align with the current socio-economic landscape to ensure that maybe the government's financial support remains. It's a delicate balance now.
I think what we'll be doing tomorrow,
right?
We are not just celebrating, but also we are celebrating opportunities that now are beginning to show up in the MSME ecosystem. We are celebrating great partnership, very unique partnership that you are having with the private sector players. Like, and then also what we'll be doing, of course, we'll be rewarding. And the reward that we have in this sector, since this is a credit line, is to ensure that those who have been borrowing, you know, if we are good borrowers, they've been borrowing and repaying, showing that they have a purpose why they are borrowing, they can be able now to access higher limit. And again, you know, your limit could be 50,000, for example, but you choose on what you want to access. That means you have discipline, you have some sort of financial discipline. So a lot of questions that we've had Kenyans, especially our beneficiaries, they've asked us questions, they made observation, and they have also made inputs as per what needs to be done. And what we'll be doing tomorrow is to respond to some of those concerns. And of course, by the limits, of course, there are those Kenyans that will experience enhanced limits tomorrow. Those Kenyans that will have an opportunity again also to access the savings, and all those will be there. How long will, and remember, we never had a prototype. And because people are asking, why did it take us this long? It's because, first of all, this is digital lending, digital saving, requires some sort of framework. We needed to just make sure we get it right. It's taken us a whole year to try, you know, like we've been retesting, testing, you know, seeing how is it turning out. Is it meeting the concerns of Kenyans? Because every time we have also been listening to the feedback from Kenyans, and when they say, oh, this is taking long, we come back to the product and we tighten a little bit, we relax a little bit, we put those necessary controls and what. But so I think tomorrow is loaded with a lot of, good things. So Kenyans should be expectant to see what will happen tomorrow. But then just on the question of the interest rates, I believe we have the lowest interest rates, and if you are to compare with what happens in the market, it's the lowest because it is per year. And the Kenyans who are borrowed most, borrowing more than even 2 times a day in some instances. How much interest rates does that Kenya pay? Very insignificant interest rates. But yet this Kenyan has been able to access cumulatively such amount of money. If they were borrowing from what was there, 10% per day or everything, this Kenyan will not have, I'm sure he will not have accumulated, 4.5 million as at today, because then there will be that burden of the interest rates that this Kenya, which probably would have put him off. And when we had this conversation with the good borrowers, our top borrowers, and all they say is because according to them, they don't even see any, they don't even feel the interest rates, because they say many a times we've had a need, you need money on day-to-day basis to buy stock, to restock, and especially those who are in the Kadogi economy. You're buying milk, you're buying sugar, you're buying this, you want to restock and sell it out. But it becomes so expensive if you are to borrow elsewhere. But again, we are also trying to make sure that the private sector can get to know that actually you can still do business and have that large customer base of Kenyans reach out to everybody and still be in business without those exorbitant interest rates.
Right.
We can still achieve this within the single-digit interest rate.
Right. So is that a hint that it will remain within the single digit? Because we have talked about
yes.
Insignificant.
It is.
Right.
It will be single-digit interest.
So single-digit interest.
Yes.
Whether it's 8 to 9, 8.5, 9.5.
It can only get better.
It can only get better, Kenyans. You heard it here first. It can only get better. Now you have something to lok forward to tomorrow, and in the spirit of looking
single digits,
right?
It can only get better.
It can only get better.
It can only get better. It can't get worse.
Right.
But I just want to reach out to Kenyans and say, this is the key to opportunities, to massive opportunities that we have.
Right.
And we have opportunities even being brought on board through the private sector. And by the way, I didn't say this, I should have said this at the onset, that the celebration, the first anniversary of the Hustler Fund also coincides with the first anniversary of the State Department of MSME.
Fantastic. Happy birthday to your State Department.
Thank you, because this is the first time.
Yes, the very first
independence that you are having the State Department of MSME.
Right.
And what it has helped us to achieve is that to bridge the coordination gap that existed, that made so many actors within this MSME ecosystem to operate in silos.
Right.
So through the State Department of MSME, we are trying to break silos in supporting our MSME to grow. And we are creating massive opportunities that can be leveraged on.
Right.
So for example, in this ecosystem, you are a Hustler Fund beneficiary. You had those who are saying, what can 500 do? But if you can show us that you have a good credit score, you have an opportunity to be scaled up to other funding opportunities like Youth Fund, like Uwezo Fund, like Kenya Industrial Estates. And if you want even more that you cannot achieve within the government space,
right,
you have the private sector, you have the banks, the KCB, the families, equity banks and all those to borrow from. And they will all be trusting your credit score, which you would have rebuilt within the Hustler Fund.
Right. And speaking of the credit fund, let's just roll one clip so that we can see what the future looks like, especially when it comes to the credit score system. What does this mean for the financial system of the country?
Good. I think we have a much bigger story, a much positive story to celebrate. Yes, we have people who have not paid. Over 1 year, we've built our own data. We've built our own character. And we're going forward from now on 30th, we will now begin to use, even the next limit, even the matching, we'll use our own Hustler-generated credit score.
The Hustler-generated credit score, right? What exactly does this mean? Now we have all this data from the previous year. We have, data from all the borrowers. We're trying to build a credit, score system that might even be used by financial institutions. You've spoken about how important it is to have an integrity-based borrowing and even, repayment kind of situation for Kenyans. What is it?
Well, so now the credit score, we use, first of all, we are not doing this as a government alone. We are doing this with the private sector.
Right.
We were riding on the experience in financing for micro. They've had the microfinancing experience. We have used the experience of digital lending that most of the mainstream, again, financial institutions have. And we said we can get to the middle.
Right.
So we came up and agreed on the baseline parameters that we are going to use to start building or, to weight someone in terms of which score does this person, does this person deserve. The data that has been used is just a data that was derived from your experience in digital products, especially when M-Pesa came up, mobile money. What was your experience? And again, one of the eligibility, especially on the personal loan, which is the one now is building up the credit score. So was looking at how long have you interacted with, do you have, first of all, you must have had a telephone line.
Yes.
How long have you been with that telephone line, for example? You realize there's some people who could have taken advantage. You just want to register your line today, access the money, and you boom in the thin air where nobody will see you there. So, but again, also we're looking, if you've been with that line for at least 90 days, for 3 months, it shows that you are known. You are within that space. And then also secondly, there are certain parameters that data gave us, you know, like the data analysts were able to give us with regard to your experience on mobile money, you know, mobile money services. How were you using it?
Right.
For example, you had people complaining when we launched, especially the Wadozis, saying that, why is my credit score lower, my credit limit lower, like 500 shillings, and my drivers, my bodyguard is like 3,000.
Right.
It is because it's whenever you want to send out money,
That's
probably
the
use them, the historical aspect to use. But the beauty of this is that we are sitting down with the private sector to work on this baseline credit score so that they can also trust it. When the time comes when we want to reintegrate these people now back to their space, they can trust it and not to again go back to the conventional collaterals, but then just focus on the credit score. But we'll keep on also improving credit score based on the new products that also come. For example, the group product, we also introduce metrics. We want to understand which kind of business are you doing. If you are, you know, a chama, for example, because group products is for chama. When we are trying now to digitalize also table banking in this, we want to understand, do you do business? How is that, you know, where is your business, in which value chain, so that we can also start looking, helping you to get linked up to the market.
And
because it's better, and those are going also to be metrics as we move into other products that you're going to introduce.
Right, and maybe Kenyans would now start being a little bit hesitant, especially when it comes to digital footprint. What have you been posting? Is that going to be accessed in the metrics? As we conclude, just a one-liner. The metrics, how wide is it?
The metrics, we will keep on improving. You know, it depends with the context. For example, financing cannot be, you can't have uniform kind of, it's not homogeneous.
Right.
Your financial needs are not homogeneous.
Right.
Your business and wherever you reside, for example, MSMEs which reside in the urban space, you see their financial needs could be different depending on that context from the MSMEs who reside in the rural areas.
Right.
So we want to start going specific, coming up with a specific financial product that speaks to your context, to your business needs, to your business financial needs, to the value chain that you are in, you know, to the complexity of your business. So as we now start moving towards business-oriented borrowing, business-oriented, you know, lending, we will now develop other metrics that will enable us, you know, assess your credit score, which can also now determine the kind of limit that you should be given. You know.
Thank you so much for your insights. Susan Mangeni, PS, MSME, talking about a possibility of a credit scoring system, a very first world approach in assessing how exactly you can borrow things or moving away from collateral. If you used your car, your shamba, now you can move, you know, trustworthiness. How exactly, how good is your word? Thank you so much for joining us here on TV47. This has been The Marketplace. We have been talking about the Hustler Fund. Happy birthday to the Hustler Fund. Happy birthday to you, Hustler, for the last 1 year. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Hibak Said. Have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday.
My name is Nesanya, and this was me.